So, my topic today, and we're going along with the CSL theme this month, is that how to live everyday wonder through the magical creation of the body. So, that's our focus for this month, and that the body that you have right here and right now is an expression of God. And so, by loving it, learning about it, and listening to it, we become closer with the divine. And don't we have a love hate relationship with our bodies? That when they are working and when they do what we want, we feel joyful, confident, happy, energized. But when there's a problem, when our bodies hurt, when our joints ache, when we're in pain and they don't do what we want, we feel frustrated, sad, and we can feel despair. And the magic or the practice for us is learning how to love our bodies and be connected with our bodies no matter what's going on. So there was a psychologist who worked with teenagers, and they reported that they had two clients with very similar backgrounds. They were both juniors in high school. They were good students. They had comfortable home lives. They were the same race, lived in the general same area of town. So much of them was similar. But the two women were seemed drastically different when they came to the psychologist's office. The doctor noticed that her first client was happy, relaxed. She was well adjusted and doing well emotionally. She felt connected to her body, and she was felt connected to her friends, to her family. She handled challenges with grace, and she looked forward to her future. She played on the softball team at school, and she was, as I said, she was comfortable in her own skin. Now, the second client was struggling. She was anxious and sad, and she didn't feel like she fit in. She struggled with an eating disorder and felt that she just wasn't right. She disliked herself. She disliked her body that and was uncomfortable. With therapy, she eventually became more comfortable, but it took a lot of work. So the psychologist reflected on these two women and reported the main difference she could find between the two of them was about the relationships that they built with their bodies from an early age. That the first woman developed a relationship where she partnered with her body. She used it to play sports. She was aware of sensations that she felt, and she gave her body what it needed. But the second was she always seemed to view her body as a thing that she was separate from, that she was stuck with this body. She didn't really like her body. She couldn't get rid of it, so she punished it. She held it to an unreasonable standard. She often told herself she wasn't good enough, and she suffered. So the conclusion that this psychologist came to was that those of us that have a healthy relationship to our bodies and treat them as partners, where we look after our needs that our body has, we integrate spirit with our body, we have more stable and more fulfilling lives often. We're better able to adapt, and we see our bodies as our friend. Instead of looking at our bodies as separate, we link it together with ourselves. I have a body and I relate to my body, but we know that that's not the whole self. We know that we're connected with spirit as well. And when we take good care of our bodies, we listen and respect the bodies. It makes a huge difference. So this report from this psychologist reminded me of the story of Max Perot, an Olympic snowboarder from Quebec, Canada. And so he was a powerful, fabulous snowboarder, and his life took a dramatic turn right before Christmas 2018. The doctors diagnosed him with Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's a rare cancer of the lymphatic system that affects the white blood cells. Then for Max, began this real race against the clock. It lasted 6 long months, and he underwent an intense treatment and 12 rounds of chemotherapy. And he finally won the battle. His body was exhausted by the medical treatment that saved his life. And at the most recent Winter Olympics, he commented, "Just 3 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed with no energy, no muscles, no cardio. It was the most difficult moment of my life. To be here 3 years later at the Olympics, living my passion, is the best race I've done." And he won the gold as a result. So he went on to say, giving up was never an option. And he talked about how he had this vision. He told everyone he was going to compete again, that this was not the end. He was going to compete again. And he said, coming back to compete in these games has been a huge source of motivation to beat cancer. And he won the gold and he won the bronze in that snowboarding event. He said, "The challenge of fighting cancer made me realize how grateful I am to be alive, to live for my passion, my sport." He said, "I used to take everything for granted. Now I don't. I appreciate every moment." And what he showed us, what he demonstrated, was the ability that he had, that he honored his body. He wasn't going to let cancer take the best of him, that he was going to do whatever he needed to compete again. And he worked with his body. He honored it. He worked with it. He did all the things he needed to do to take care of it and to do the treatments and all of that. But he wasn't going to let that defeat him. So he learned how to work with his body, how to honor it, how to enable it to do the best that he could. Eckhart Tolle tells us that the body has its own intelligence, that every organism, every life form has its own intelligence. That intelligence reacts, for us as humans, that intelligence reacts to what the mind is saying and reacts to our thoughts. So the emotion is the body's reaction to the mind. Although the body is intelligent, it cannot tell the difference between an actual situation and a thought. It reacts to every thought as if it were a reality. Isn't that true? Have you noticed that? Those times when we wake up with worry and fear, that it was just a thought, but the body doesn't know the difference. Same thing when we encourage it. The body doesn't know the difference. So it responds to our energy, to that positive inspiration. So to the body, a worrisome, fearful thought means I am in danger, and it responds accordingly, even though you might be in a comfortable bed at night, right? But the heart beats faster, muscles contract, breathing becomes rapid. There's a buildup of energy, but since the danger is only mental fiction, the energy has no outlet. The rest of the energy turns toxic and interferes with the harmonious functioning of the body. So, in his book, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle shared an observation. He said, after two ducks get into a fight, which the fight never lasts long, they will separate and float off in opposite directions. Then each duck will just flap its wings vigorously many times, releasing any surplus energy that it built up during the fight. After they flap their wings, they float away peacefully as if nothing ever happened. If the duck had a human mind, it would keep that fight alive, thinking but with storytelling. It would probably go something like this. I can't believe what he just did. Can you believe he came within 5 inches of me? He thinks he owns this pond. He has no consideration for my private space. I'll never trust him again. Next time, he'll probably try something else to annoy me. He's probably plotting it already, but I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to teach him a lesson. Have you ever found yourself doing that? We tell our own story that goes on and on about whatever happened, where the duck in that moment, by letting go of that excess energy, released it and was free. We tend to be captive with what someone said, what someone did. It could even be a look, that we hold ourselves captive. We could talk about it for days, for weeks, for months. I've even known people to do it for years. I've done it myself. Hang on to that past experience, still talking about it. And every time we talk about it, we're generating that same negative, separating energy, when we could be releasing it, letting it go, and seeing that person with light surrounding them and being free. So holding the body as a temple is understanding that we have aspects to us, and if we could see ourselves as whole, it makes a huge difference. Dan's going to show a video in a moment. One more thing from Eckhart. He said, any remnants of pain left behind by a strong negative emotion that's not fully faced and accepted and let go, it stays in the energy field of our body. It stays in our cells. And it consists of not just childhood pain, but painful memories that were added as adults. Much of it is created by the voice of the ego. It's an emotional pain that is unavoidable companion when there's a false sense of self, and we don't understand all of the aspects of the self. So Dan's going to show this video. It's a teaching tool that I use in my classes and in my work. I think that it explains the body very clearly.
Hi, I'd like to share a teaching tool with you called the Coach to Everywhere. This is a powerful metaphor that illustrates the relationship of spirit, mind, body, and emotions. So let's begin. The coach represents the body, the driver represents the mind, and the horse represents the emotions. Now, the driver represents that aspect of the mind that can think, ponder, plan, and perform feats of logic. It controls the emotions with the reins of imagination. The true master of the coach is spirit. But do you ever have those days where you forget about spirit? You forget your oneness, your divinity within? I know I do. On those days we forget, the driver thinks they're in charge. And that could be dangerous. What they do is they listen to the passenger in the back seat. You know how we all have that backseat driver in the back of the mind, says those things like, "Are you sure you can do this? I don't think this is going to get done on time. Are you really qualified?" They're based on error beliefs, beliefs from the past. They're false beliefs that are not true, but we're still believing them. That's what comes up to the driver, and that's what the driver's thinking now. The driver has one intention, and that's to get where it's going, to get there fast, and to have some fun along the way. So it does one of two things. It either whips the horse into a frenzy through the reins of imagination, or gets totally distracted by the scenery and gets lost and ends up somewhere like Montana and says, "How the heck did I get here?" Our real work is to build that relationship with spirit, that through daily dedicated spiritual practice, we listen to that still small voice of intuition. And then we have a calmness, we have an awareness, we have a sense of purpose and direction on where we're going.
Thanks, Dan. So what that shows us, what happens when the driver whips the horse into a frenzy? What happens when the mind stirs up all these emotions? We get anxious, our blood pressure goes up, we have all these fear thoughts going on. We have our just as we said earlier, the heart beats faster, that there's all this energy because we believed something from the past. So our work as to understand that our body is the temple. Our body holds the temple of our soul, the temple for spirit. And the more we pay attention to that and do our inner work to stay connected to spirit, the more empowered we are and the more connected we are to our bodies, the more connected we are to life, the more peace we have, the more power we have, the more we are in that sense of wholeness and grace. So those thoughts will always come up. Our work is to be able to discern them and understand them and say, oh, there's that fear thought again. I'm not going to let that affect me. Because again, when we let that affect us, it affects every aspect of our body, every aspect of our cells. When we remember to take care of all aspects of our body, our emotions, as well as our thinking, Ernest Holmes said, the trained mind is infinitely more powerful than untrained mind. That the trained mind supports the body. The trained mind supports us in knowing spirit. The trained mind keeps us connected, where we respond to incidents rather than react. Anita Moorjani, one of my favorite books is Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. Now, she tells a story. She had cancer throughout her entire body, and she was in a coma when she stopped breathing. She had a near-death experience and came back with an amazing insight of her thinking. She said, in that expansive state, I realized how harshly I treated myself and judged myself through my entire life. There was no one punishing me. I understood it was me that I hadn't forgiven, not other people. I was the one who was judging me, whom I forsaken, whom I didn't love enough. It had nothing to do with anyone else. I saw myself as a beautiful child of the universe. Just the fact that I existed made me deserving of unconditional love. I realized I didn't need to do anything to deserve this, not pray, not beg, not anything else. I saw that I had never loved myself, valued myself, or seen the beauty of my own soul. Although the unconditional magnificence was always there for me, it felt as though my physical life had somehow filtered out or eroded it away. Very powerful seeing in that place of from having that near death experience. She had this whole different view of herself. She saw what she was telling herself and how she viewed herself and how much energy she had against herself. Her story is remarkable. I invite you to join us for the community chat after the meeting. I'm going to share the 5 insights she had from her near-death experience and how we can live better lives. So we know that a temple is a place of worship. Our bodies are a place of worship. We understand that in order to live a full life, in order to allow spirit to express through us, we want to take care of our bodies as those temples, to worship that spiritual life within ourselves. And the way we do that is with love. The more we act in accordance with the timeless principle of love, the more we free our bodies from the ravages of time. And we begin to break those bad habits of the flesh. There's a tool that I share, and I shared at the last time we had community chat together, and it's called the praising prayer. And it's a way of praising the body and connecting and releasing those cells that are holding all that toxic energy in the body. And I use this, you can use this for anything, but I love to use this for the body. And it goes like this: I praise my body. And there's postures that go along with it. I praise my body. I raise my body in the name of love. So when we do the posture, we're releasing the cells. I praise my body. I raise my body, and I'm open to receiving that divine love. I raise my body and bring that love to our hearts in the name of love. And you can do this with a body part. Say, I don't know about you, do your knees ever hurt? Sometimes my knees hurt. So I'll praise my knees. I praise my knees. I raise my knees in the name of love. I praise my shoulders. I raise my shoulders in the name of love. I praise my hands. I raise my hands in the name of love. The more we praise our bodies, the more we acknowledge that presence of love. That as we do that, we're changing right at the cellular level of our bodies. You know, what happened during the pandemic is that we became aware of our bodies, right? We learned, first of all, that we are not alone. And second of all, the importance of caring for our bodies. That having that ability to pay attention, to listen when the body needs to rest, to listen when the body is hurting or in pain, to pay attention. We've taken our bodies for granted. We've taken the earth for granted. I love Molly's meditation to remind us of our connection with the earth. The pandemic has been a reminder, and we have an opportunity. Am I going to connect with my body? Am I going to connect with spirit? Am I going to connect with the wholeness that I am? We still have a lot of work to do, to lay down our need for greed, to unite in how we treat each other in the world, and to be diligent in how we care for the planet, to be conscious on how we express love for ourselves and each other, to pay attention and allow ourselves to receive all the love that Spirit has in store for us. Love is flowing to us all the time. It's our job to receive it and accept it. And so let us take all of this into prayer right now. So, how grateful I am for this opportunity, for this connection right here and right now. For all that God is that infinite flow of goodness, that infinite flow of love and light. And so today we recognize this good that is our bodies. We celebrate our bodies. We raise them up and praise them in the name of love. We know that our bodies are temples for the living Spirit. They are temples for the Spirit that moves in and through and as us each day, for the presence of love that expresses through each of us. How grateful I am for each one here today that we lift up and raise up into that frequency of love. We know that something greater is being revealed in this day, in this moment, in this opportunity. How grateful I am for this knowingness, for this newness, and for so much that Spirit has to offer. I release this word with deep gratitude for this and for so much more. And together we proclaim, and so it is. So thank you. Thank you for listening and for being here.